All right, everyone. The prosecutors keep pushing for a gag order on Trump, specifically with several of the cases. Bragg doesn't seem to really care, and neither does Smith, but the Fulton County prosecution really wants to put a limited, narrow gag order on Donald Trump to keep him from discussing certain aspects of the case. They're worried he's going to intimidate potential jurors and stupid stuff like that. From the strategic perspective alone, I think that would backfire pretty spectacularly. Personally, I think it's actually to Trump's benefit if he does end up with a gag order issued, which probably explains why he runs up against the prosecution there and constantly insults the judge and the prosecutor and everything else and keeps talking about the case incessantly. While I would like to hear more about Trump's proposals for a second term, and I mean, if I go to his Rumble, I get plenty of that. I would like him to address these things more, including in prime time. You do have to sort of go into the lion's den and talk to the morons at MSNBC and Fox, so to speak, and take that message to the people. So I want to hear more about, for instance, his very first campaign plank and his platform, which was going after censorship online, etc. It's something that even some Democrats are amenable to. I want to hear more proposals about the border and stuff. If I go to Rumble, I can find them. If I go to Truth Social, I see them. If I watch his rallies, so if you're a core Trump fan that goes to his rallies when he's anywhere nearby, you know his proposals. I think there are independent voters, though, who basically right now they don't know all of his proposals, and I think that's a problem. As far as the prosecutorial side here, so indictment gate, which is what it's become, you've now got four different legal cases against him now that Letitia James and the New York AG have joined in. You have these four different cases and it is legal persecution. And the Fulton County persecution is definitely the most top heavy. I think Trump is hoping for a gag order. What that would establish in the minds of core Trump voters is obviously Donald Trump is being persecuted. They're trying to silence him. In fact, that's explicitly what his legal team is putting out to the public. Now, while it's a very narrow gag order that they're seeking, and it doesn't actually prevent him from talking about the case, it would definitely be red meat to that chunk of voters. I think that independents who had voted for Trump at least in 2016 are amenable to the same basic premise. And if we look at the new primary polling right now, Trump is now above 60 in two new polls and rising. He hasn't hit that level before in any polling, by the way, so he continues his incline. The writing is effectively on the wall for the primaries. Um, and I think that this would just seal the deal even more. If indicting him doesn't do anything, then except help him, then putting a gag order on him, I think would follow suit, generally speaking. I don't think he has anything to lose by it. He can still talk about the case, but he can also come out and say, oh, look, they're trying to silence me again. Once again, proving that I'm the outsider in this race. They're afraid of me, and really they're afraid of all you, which is, again, it's a messaging that appears to be working. It's one that I accept as well. Donald Trump is just one figurehead within a much larger, broader movement of people that are fighting for the same basic ideological principles. That includes content creators, members of Congress, certain governors, certain judges, and so forth are part of this sort of populistic nexus that really is destroying old wave conservatism. If anything, if I were still liberal, I'd be praising Trump if only for that. Oh my God, you're getting rid of the Bob Doles and the John McCain's and the George W's of the Republican Party. Well, 50% less warmongering certainly doesn't sound like a bad thing. Hey, we can bomb less kids in third world countries? What a novel idea. It's almost like a brand new Republican Party. We see right now with the budget fighting, of course, we're I think 15 hours or thereabouts away from a partial government shutdown. They're trying to do a stopgap measure. The Dems are working on that just for temporary funding. They'll probably get it through, by the way. You've got the hardline populists blocking Kevin McCarthy at the moment because he's offering a watered down sort of bill. The Democrats won't vote for it because it has anything that McCarthy wants, and the populists won't vote for it because it doesn't go far enough. There's really no reconciliation possible between these two groups. That is the power of MAGA. It's not just Donald Trump. Donald Trump actually acts to his own detriment when he makes himself the central symbol of that broader movement. He's running for the presidency. He doesn't have legislative or judicial power, and he's not a content creator at this point. Although, if he got back on Twitter, I suppose that would qualify. A gag order, though, would be basically a gift from heaven to his campaign. It seals the deal for the primaries. The Republican backlash would be significant. Trump would probably hit 65 in the aggregate. Everyone else at that point will begin dropping out like flies because they'll be starved for any investment. Nobody's going to bother investing in a campaign at that point unless it's one that they think is amenable to a cabinet position or something. So Tim Scott, Vivek Ramaswamy, they might be able to gobble up what's left when the rest of the field leaves. Trump ends up with 80 or something like that. But it backfire. It backfired badly. If the indictments didn't hurt Trump, and in fact gave him an extra 6, 7 points in the aggregate among his core base there, and grew it, made it much stronger, I think. I can only imagine what a gag order would do. I think that in this case, also, the judicial system is aware of that fact. I think that's why they've been very hesitant. They're slow walking the gag order proposal thing and being much more amenable to listening to the defense, actually, than they have been at most other junctures throughout the case. It's a much slower, more meticulous process that's more even-handed for a reason. The judge in the case knows full well what Trump is doing. It's a strategy, effectively. Trump doesn't care about the legal side of these things because he's convinced that if he's nominated, he gets reelected, the legal problems effectively go away anyway. They're not going to be able to do jack to him if he gets reelected to the presidency other than maybe try to JFK him, which they might be crazy nuts enough to do on one hand, or number two, attempt to remove him from office on day one, which would cause absolute uproar because he would have been voted for by the population. I don't think that would go over well. They're trying to forestall that. I have a feeling that the judge fields calls from DNC operatives. Hey, maybe you don't want to gag him. I know that it means that basically he can insult your court with impunity, and you really don't like that fact, and you really, because, you're a strong, empowered woman who don't need no man telling you what to do, we know you would love to smack down Orange Man. We know you'd like to silence him, put him in his place, drag him before the court, wag your finger and admonish him, but in so doing, you make the process look more like a kangaroo court, and you give him what he wants. We'll see what ends up happening with the gag order story. I'm very interested to see whether it will be granted. I'm not exactly sure. It's basically the judge wants to, but is advised not to. So we'll see what happens with her ego there. That's about all. Peace out.